Hey, it's Mistress Carrie reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 124 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Michael Wilton from Queensryche, I want to remind you that as the seasons change and the weather gets cooler, that the hoodies and beanies are available in the Mistress Carrie online store. You can also grab coffee mugs in there as well for all of those warm winter beverages and all the soup. And as you start thinking about your holiday shopping, well, nothing says love around the holidays more than Mistress Carrie. You can check out the online Mistress Carrie store. Just head to mistresscarrie.com. That's also where you'll find all of the episodes of the Mistress Carrie podcast, including this one. Michael Wilton and Queensryche, well, they have been some of my favorites for years. Matter of fact, I loved Queensryche so much, especially Operation Mindcrime, that I snuck out of the house in my teen years to go and see them without permission. And let's just say I didn't have a 16th birthday party that year. And you know what? I wanted an apology from Michael Wilton. Queensryche just released their new album, Digital Noise Alliance, and they're out on the road with Judas Priest. Matter of fact, when I sat down and talked to Michael Wilton, it was the day of the first show of the tour, just a few days before they rolled into Boston. We talked about his upbringing and his first guitar, his guitar tone inspiration, and Eddie Van Halen. We talked about the music he grew up listening to, including Judas Priest, and where he got his nickname, The Whip, in high school. We also talked about the band's songwriting process and their extensive touring. And it wouldn't be an episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast if we didn't talk about his pets and his love of ice cream. Well, you'll hear about that coming up in the episode. I have loved Queensryche from the first time that I heard them, and this is the first time I got to sit down with the band's guitar player. So allow me to introduce you to Michael Wilton.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely. Pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Well, hello, Michael. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and on this special first day of this tour.
Yeah, so you guys are getting ready to kick off this tour with Judas Priest. Kind of a big deal.
Yes, it's our second tour with these guys this year, so it's always great to be with them. You know, they're great, and they're actually heroes. So.
Soon to be Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, too.
Yeah, so proud of them. You know, it's such a great achievement for them, and, you know, they have our full support.
You have to be careful with the people that are at your shows. I want to start off by saying that my 16th birthday party was canceled because I snuck out of the house to see you guys with Def Leppard on that big, like, In the Round tour you did. Mm. I got grounded because of you guys.
Oh my gosh. But what a good penalty, huh?
Yeah, the show was great. I saw it the first night, had permission, wanted to go back and see it the second night, did not have permission, got my ass grounded, birthday party canceled because of Queensryche. Thanks a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well, You're too kind.
You guys also, now that you're out on the road with Judas Priest, also just had, is it really your 16th studio album?
Yes. Still going at it strong, 40 years plus. So
if you had a gun to your head right now, could you name all 16?
Well, I've only had one coffee, but yeah, I could probably do it. Well, no, maybe it might take me a bit.
I want to talk to you about your guitar playing, because in guitar circles, when people talk about fast fingers, your name always comes up, and it's not something that just kind of shows up. It's something you've been working at since you were a kid. Can you talk to me about when you started playing guitar?
Yeah, I was in my teens, actually. So, back then it was more of putting your ear to the speaker and learning guitar parts, and you didn't have internet, you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have that. You had cassettes at the most and records. So I basically did that, and then hung around other, aspiring guitar players that were learning. We just showed each other licks, and eventually I started getting, good dexterity, and they started saying, "Hey, you whip on the guitar." And then, back then we'd hang out at keggers, with big bonfires and cars lighting everything up. And then someone would yell, "Hey, Whip, come over here." And everybody go, "Who's Whip?" And so the nickname stuck.
Nicknames do stick forever, whether you want them to or not.
But yeah, so it was just, I think it's just, passion and a love for playing the guitar. And it's something that, you do, and you aspire to do, and you love what you do, and you just, experiment, learn, just be a sponge and just take it all in. And that's kind of what I've been doing all my life. So now it's totally natural, but, I still love it. Otherwise I wouldn't be out here, right? So I love it, and always looking for inspiration, to fuel my guitar playing and everything. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's just something that, sometimes you got to go back and woodshed, and, can't let the tips of the fingers get soft. So it's more of just kind of sticking with it, but you got to have the passion, definitely.
There's only a few ways when you're a kid to get a guitar. You either got to get, a job and save your pennies. Someone gifts you one that they have stuffed in a closet they're not using, or you got to beg your parents to buy it. Which one were you?
I saved my money, and you're going to laugh. I went in the back of a magazine, and I had a mail order guitar sent to me. And this thing, I think it was made out of plywood, but it kind of looked like a Les Paul. But I still have it today. But
I was going to ask you, please tell me you still have this thing.
I do, and it's the heaviest guitar I've ever picked up.
Do you play it now? Back then, you didn't know any better. Now that you know better, does the thing even sound good?
Not really.
What's the first song that you started playing where you feel like you got it? Like you're noodling around trying to play to a cassette or play what's on the radio. Do you remember when you played a song straight through and you were like, "Oh my God, I think I figured it out"? Do you remember what that song was?
Yeah, I think I remember a band called Mountain.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was a song by them, and then a song off the first Led Zeppelin album. I think those were, big crown achievements for me. And, but back then, when you're 16, 17 years old, you don't even know if you're playing them right. So,
well, I have a theory about music. Correct me if I'm wrong. that there are two phases of your music adolescence. There's the music you get gifted by your parents, your cool uncle, and your older siblings, the soundtrack to your childhood, I call it. And then there's a day that you get exposed to something and you go, oh, wait a second, I like that, that's mine. So what was it that was your soundtrack growing up? And then what was it that you claimed as your own?
I think that, was later on in high school when, I was listening to, Judas Priest.
Ah!
Yeah, The Killing Machine. And then Van Halen came out with, the first album, and that blew me away. So I think, at that point, I was 18 years old, 19. And that's kind of what interested me was kind of the British invasion that was coming to America back then. It was all, these European bands that were on import records that were so cool because where I was growing up in Seattle at that time, it was really hit radio. It was really boring for a guitar player, and I'm a young teenager and I want loud amps, and cool looking guitars and all that stuff. So, that was definitely the influence and once I was 20, that's when we did the first demo EP, which later became, our first release. That's where I think I found, I don't know, the beginnings of my signature style.
Did you grow up with rock music on in the house? What were your parents listening to?
My dad had a vast collection of records. I listened to jazz, to pop, to rock. I mean, he had like Jimi Hendrix records, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Mountain. But I also listened to like John Coltrane, Miles Davis, that. And then kind of the progressive guitar players. I was listening to Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin. So I was, feeding my psyche lots of interesting stuff at an early age. And, maybe that kind of mixed in the soup blender in my brain just kind of fueled my future for me.
You bring up Van Halen's first record, and the rock industry is still reeling from the loss of Eddie Van Halen. Is it possible to even measure his impact on rock and roll?
Oh, his playing and his, he basically made me become a guitar player. I think I was 17, 18. It was the Black Sabbath Never Say Die tour, and Van Halen was opening for them. And I had never seen them live. And I think I was up in the 300 section, and they came out with the song Van Halen is like on fire, and David Lee Roth is kicking his legs up in the air, and Eddie's doing these, that's when I decided that's what I wanted to do. So, yeah, it's, and I did have the chance to meet him a couple times, and, he had a huge impact on my career because he basically started it.
I only had a chance to meet him a couple of times, and I was fixated by his hands. They were so huge. I couldn't believe how limber his fingers were, but that his hands were so big.
Well, it's like, some piano players and guitar players have that. I listen to classical guitar in the mornings, and I listen to like Andre Segovia, and, he had big chunky fingers and he played till the day he died. He was awesome. But yeah, it's all about, being able to coordinate with the brain, what you have and make it work. Sometimes big, thick fingers are hard to do chords, but intricate chords at least. But yeah, it's just all coordination, basically.
Shortly after Eddie Van Halen died, I actually had an interview with Nuno Bettencourt from Extreme, and he got me going down this tangent of questions with guitar players because he told me a story early on in Extreme's career that he got invited to a Van Halen rehearsal, and his dream to play Eddie's guitar through Eddie's rig so he would finally sound like Eddie Van Halen came true, except when he grabbed his guitar, Eddie's strings, Eddie's chord, Eddie's pedals, Eddie's amps, he said I still sounded like Nuno. And so I've been asking guitar players when I talk to them, you've got a signature guitar tone. What do you attribute that tone to? Where does it come from if it's not coming from the guitar, from the amp, from the gear?
I think it's everybody's always, hot on how fast you can fret and move the fingers, but I think it's more in the right hand. I think it's more in the picking hand. I think it's how you attack the strings. It's, there's dynamics involved and it just kind of connects to your body, so I think that's where the personality is. That's why it's like anybody who plays somebody else's guitar is going to sound like that because it's the way they pick, and it's just like you said with Nuno.
Can I talk to you about guitar ideas? Because I can't play the guitar, but I'm fascinated by the songwriting process, and I'm fascinated by people that can play. And to me, the list of riffs that's already been invented and recorded and made famous is so long. So when it's just you sitting down with your guitar, A, where do the riff ideas come from? And B, when you're writing music, what side of the fence are you? Do you sit down and write for a specific project, or are you always coming up with riff ideas and stockpiling them like a squirrel somewhere to use later? Like, how do you do it?
It's all spontaneous. I hear them in my head, and I get influenced by that, and that's how they get built. Just like on this latest album on Digital Noise Alliance, we didn't want regurgitated stuff. It was like, let's just build from riffs or whatever, on the spot, very spontaneous. So, I'd be with the guys having coffee before the studio session started, and I'd hear something in my head and I'd go, okay, hey guys, I think I got something. And I tell Zeus, our producer, go turn on the Pro Tools computer and record this before I forget it. So that's, with me, that's kind of how it is. I get inspired, I hear something, and it's you just have to listen, I guess, in your head and translate it. And that's just how I do it. I get inspired, I hear something in my head, and I just hopefully, can get it recorded before I forget it.
What do you do if Zeus isn't there? I talked to Jerry Cantrell, a fellow Seattleite, and he told me that he sings the riffs into his cell phone so he doesn't forget them. Like, what if you wake up in the middle of the night? What do you do?
Sad to say, those usually are gone by the morning. So it's kind of what's accessible at the moment. And yeah, it's like I've had dreams where I've written the song, and then I wake up and I have no idea, no recollection of what it was. So, but it's like I said, you get inspired at that moment and you just hope that you can document it somehow, whether you sing it, where you write some, notes, or you have a guitar hopefully nearby that you can figure it out. But it's just, I've been doing this for so long. It's like, I have my band guys police me, right? To make sure that, if I come up with a riff, that I'm not ripping myself off from like another rip of an older album. So it's just, it's just the way that we do things, the way that Queensryche does things, and the way I spawn ideas.
How important was it for you to have your guitar when the world shut down? They sold more guitars during COVID than I think any other time in human history because people were looking for a way to keep themselves occupied. You were already proficient at it. Did you play more guitar or less when you were home kind of for your longest vacation of your career?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I kept busy. I, wrote lots of things. I do lots of licensing music where I do deals with publishing companies, where they play your music in the background, like of a hockey newscast or something, or a cooking channel or something. So I do that. I did 2 of those, and also wrote some ideas for solo records, and then eventually some ideas for the just riffs for the DNA album, which, like I said, most of it was spontaneous, but there was one song on the album that came from, that was, created during the pandemic.
Where's the craziest place your guitar playing is being sync licensed right now? Because we're not going to know it's you, or maybe we would know it's you.
I didn't see it, but someone told me that your music was in the background of a cooking channel. Remember Anthony Bourdain?
Yeah.
He passed away, but yeah, it was in the background of one of his episodes.
What were the non-musical things that you were doing at home? So many musicians, this is the first vacation they ever had. So when you weren't writing songs and recording for different things, what were you doing? Did you find a new hobby?
A good friend of mine hired me on his construction team. So I was doing residential construction during the pandemic. So to keep busy and to make some extra money. So yeah, I did that. So I'm fairly schooled in residential construction projects.
Weren't you afraid to hurt your fingers?
Oh yeah, I did all the time.
Oh.
But but I'm okay. I didn't get too banged up, but that's kind of the other thing I did in the pandemic. I did that for a few months. So that was fun.
Judas Priest celebrating their 50th anniversary. And next year, Heart, another legendary Seattle band, is celebrating their 50th anniversary. What did their kind of existence in your upbringing, what did it mean to you, especially, as a band that is so legendary for having these badass women in the band? What did they mean to Seattle?
I mean, Heart was, they were like from some of the same neighborhoods that we lived in outside of Seattle. And, they were a bit more experienced and older than we were. So, and their music was being played on the radio. So they were, one of the big bands that came out of Seattle. I mean, you got to love it, I think. And, we got to do some shows with them, and, we met them a few times. I remember Chris and I did an advertisement with Nancy for Ovation Guitars that was in magazines. And so, yeah, I mean, totally much respect to them. And I think they're still, touring and doing their thing today.
What is it about Seattle? It seems like it's just this amazing place. And I'm not just talking about the 90s and the grunge movement. I'm talking about the area in general just keeps turning out amazing, legendary musicians. What is it about that region of the country?
One aspect may be that it's kind of gloomy all the time, and it rains a lot, and there's periods of months where it's just kind of icky outside, right? And I think people do things indoors, I think, and guitar playing is one of them. And, it just, maybe it's all spawned by the weather.
How many guitars do you have now? Because you collect them too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for a while, so I've acquired quite a bit of arsenal of guitars. I think I have, probably about 75 or 80, something like that.
Can I ask you this question? I ask every songwriter this question because, like I said, I'm so envious of the craft, and I just don't understand how there's nothing, and then you hear this thing in your head, and then there's a song. So can you give me an example, and this is a songwriting question, of a song that you think is so perfectly crafted that you wish you wrote it? Of any genre, any artist, that's insignificant, but a song that you look at from a craft perspective and you go, that's a perfectly written song.
Oh, anything by Led Zeppelin. Yeah, I mean, to me, there's just so many great works of guitar, inspired songs that, you can go through history, great stuff that came out in the 70s. I mean, my God, there's so many great songs with signature guitars.
Before I let you go, now that you're back out on the road, when you guys stop someplace, you're obviously in buses, you're out on the road with Judas Priest, 3 a.m., bus driver's got to fuel up, you pull over. What are you going into the truck stop to buy? What's the weirdest thing you've bought at the truck stop? What do you go looking for? Those overnight Walmart trips?
I don't look for anything weird. I just look for the ice cream bin and get one of those, those Eskimo pie things. Those are awesome.
You're going to be in Boston very soon. And through the years, obviously canceling my 16th birthday in Worcester. When you guys spend time in Boston, what do you do? I mean, you've been touring a long time.
Well, it depends, if we have a day off in the city or not. Usually we just reside in the parking lot and make the best of it. If there's time, we could venture out, but it's usually nothing's very close to where we're playing. So we just hang out at the venue.
The venue you guys are playing, by the way, is brand new and it's beautiful. The MGM Music Hall at Fenway.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah, we heard about that.
It's really nice inside. Wait. Yeah. And it's attached to Fenway Park. I know as a sports guy, the Red Sox are out of it. How are you feeling about Seattle's chances?
Well, I'm really, really happy for them. And they have a badass team. They got, that was a tough loss the other night against Houston, but I think, hopefully they can pull it out and do something, get the Seattle Mariners back on the map.
I know you're a big sports fan. Did you grow up wanting to play sports too, or was it just always guitar for you?
No, I was a jock. I played baseball. I played, junior football. I played, I did all that stuff as a kid. So I got fairly far with baseball, but, then Eddie Van Halen came into my life and
ruined it for everybody.
I wanted to play guitar.
I have to ask you this question because Geezer Butler changed everything. I talked to Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath and we got in this weird conversation and we started talking about his pets. I never in a million years would have ever asked Geezer Butler the name of his pets, but we were talking about a pet charity he volunteers for. And he told me that all of his animals are named after gangster rappers. Now, ever since then, I've had to ask musicians about their animals, especially because of COVID. We were all stuck at home with them for so long. So do you have pets, and what do you name them after? And you can blame Geezer for this question.
I do not have any pets. I mean, I reside in Florida now, so I have gecko lizards and sometimes the occasional snake venturing into my house that keep me alert. So that's it for me. I don't have any dogs or cat.
You really were craving the sunshine. You went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, I love it though. You know, you wake up every day and you see the sun, but the summers are pretty brutal. You know, it's like living on the sun. It's so hot.
Were you affected by the hurricane at all, or did you make it out okay?
It's okay. Just a bunch of branches and debris, in the property, and that's about it. So dodge that one.
No interest in moving someplace with all the snow like Massachusetts?
Well, my theory is that, we tour so much, so I get to see the rest of the country, so in Seattle, I think we've played there already 4 times. So it's, I get enough of that when I tour. I'm digging the palm trees, and the beaches and all that.
I recently talked to Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, and I asked him this question, and I'll ask you the same question. I asked him, is it annoying or is it a testament to the passion that your fans have that they secretly hold out hope that the band will reunite? And his answer was that he thought it was kind of sad because he didn't think it was ever going to happen. But obviously, it ties back to the passion of the fans and the music and them loving you so much. How would you answer that question?
Well, you got pockets of Queensryche fans that, it was the story of their lives, back in their college days or whatever, so they're kind of, loving that, and that's what they wish, and it's still in their minds. But it's and we got new fans that love the new music, new younger fans that follow Queensryche now, and it's so it's all encompassing. And bands change, people want to do things different in life, so it's all part of the path, I guess, that everybody wants to take. And for me and the guys, it's like, you just want to give the best representation you can of the band and get the strongest players, the best chemistry, and make it work. So, to wish to have everybody back in the band, it's like, it doesn't work. I don't think that way. So it's like, for me, I'm thinking of the next day. I'm thinking of the next album. I'm thinking of the next tour. I'm thinking of that. I'm not worried about trying to resurge anything.
It's got to be a trip for you, though, to be up on stage and look out and see those generations of Queensryche fans singing the songs together, though. That's got to be a trip.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all over the world. In fact, when we play in Athens, Greece, they sing the guitar solos. It's awesome.
I bet it is for you. Nobody sings the guitar solos.
Yeah, they are so passionate. It's mind-blowing.
Well, I am so appreciative of your time. I accept your apology of the cancellation of my 16th birthday party. You guys are going to absolutely love that new venue in Boston with Judas Priest. Stage is big. Sight lines are awesome. The venue sounds amazing. And I can't wait to see you at the show. And, a lifelong dream for you. You grow up listening to Judas Priest. Now you're out on the road with them.
Right on. Yep. Living the dream. Living the dream.
Congratulations on the release of your 16th album. It's insane to say that.
Yeah, we're out to support it for the next couple of years, so we're really proud of it. And there's going to be a lot of Queensryche in the next few years.
It was so nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
See you in Boston. Bye-bye.
Bye. There he is, Michael Wilton from Queensryche. The new album, Digital Noise Alliance, is available everywhere, and you can catch the band right now out on the road with Judas Priest. It wasn't a very convincing apology about my 16th birthday party, but, well, I'll take it. He's forgiven. If you're looking for Michael Wilton and Queensryche, I've got all of the links to their socials and websites in the show notes of this episode. You'll also find all of the Mistress Carrie links there as well, and the link to the corresponding playlist for this episode. Every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast gets a corresponding playlist that is filled with the music of my guest and all of the music that we talked about in the interview. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe and follow the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the Sit Rep. The Situation Report runs down all of your rock and music headlines in 5 minutes. And if you know a Queensryche fan, make sure you share this episode with them. Most people discover new podcasts because their friends and families suggest them. You can get more details on the Mistress Carrie podcast, the Mistress Carrie radio show, and my video show, Cocktails in the War Room, at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.